And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Will Watrous. Will, thank you, sir, for spending some time with me.
Loving to be here with you today, Michael.
Good. Well, it's going to be a fun conversation because Will is an EOS implementer. So he can help you understand this book, Traction, and how actually to implement it in your business. Caleb and I are big fans of Traction and EOS. We run on EOS. And really, what we're talking about today is gaining traction in your business and doing it through the concept of EOS, working with Will and implementers and things, and talking about some of the challenges business owners have when they try to implement it. What is this thing called EOS, and why should I be using it? How does it help? All of that. That's what you're in for today. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in deep, Will. With really my first question is, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
That's a really interesting question because I started a company back in, I want to say about 2010. And
Okay.
honestly, I hadn't even actually planned on starting a company. I was actually helping a friend with his marketing. And I knew a little bit about it, enough to be dangerous, and I wanted to help him out. So I jumped into it. And he's a really successful business owner, a smart guy, does great business, and his business took off, started growing like crazy. And he started having other business owners come to him and say, "Hey, what are you doing? You're doing really well. What's going on?" And he's a really gracious guy. He would say, "I have this guy named Will. Sometimes I need to call Will and tell him to tone it down a little bit because we're too busy." And these other business owners would say, "Oh my goodness, give me this guy's number." And so I started getting phone calls from other business owners saying, "Hey, will you do for us what you're doing for so and so?" And so the business started growing, and one thing led to another. I hired someone and hired more and hired more and hired, grew pretty significantly. And at one point, it became extremely stressful just as the business owner. And I think a lot of your listeners will probably resonate with this, where now I was doing everything from chief cook to the bottle washer.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there were other people involved in the business, I had my hands in everything. And so at one point, it got so stressful, I had alarming symptoms show up in my body. Wound up taking a trip to the hospital,
Oh no.
and it was a pretty scary experience. They thought I was having a stroke.
Uh-huh.
And my wife was obviously very concerned. I was very concerned. It wound up just being a type of migraine that was presenting that way, but it was ultimately all due to stress.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I decided, okay, I need to change some things up here significantly. So I went out on a mission to create a healthier business, a healthier life. I came across this book called Traction and read it, and it made a lot of sense to me. And so I wound up hiring an EOS implementer, worked with him for a couple of years, and it was a game changer, transformational for the business. We went from what felt like herding cats every day to functioning as this high performance team. We continued to grow rapidly, and net profit went from 6% to 34%. So, needless to say, I fell in love with this whole thing.
Right.
And in the process, it actually created a lot of freedom for me as the owner.
Yeah.
And so, about, let's see, 3.5 years ago, I stepped away from that company. So, I still own it now passively. And I meet with the CEO once a month. We run through financials. I support him. But all I do now is help other companies implement EOS. So I'm on a mission to bring this extremely effective business system to other entrepreneurs and their leadership teams.
That's awesome. Love that background. Thank you for telling me that because it's good because you're not because you are one of us, right? You're a business owner. You've lived it. You use it, and now you coach other people in it. So for those in my audience who may have maybe heard of EOS traction, is it the same thing? What is it? We get these questions all the time, right? But at a high level, just talk about what is EOS, what is traction, and what's an implementer. Unpack those before we move down any further.
Sure. EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Traction is just simply the name of the book that outlines it pretty completely.
Mm-hmm.
And an implementer is just someone who helps other business leaders bring it to life in their organization. And I'll just briefly tell you what EOS is: a way to help you get what you want from your business. And so basically, it's a complete system with a simple set of really practical tools that
Hmm.
help business leaders do three things. I call them vision, traction, healthy. Vision from the standpoint of first getting the leaders 100% on the same page with where is this company going? How do we plan to get there? Traction from the standpoint of instilling discipline and accountability so your leaders are executing really well on every part of your vision. And healthy meaning helping your leaders to become a more healthy, functional, cohesive leadership team because as goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. And so what we found is when you implement EOS, everyone in the company is all fully aligned. They're on the same page. Wherever you look in the organization, people are gaining traction toward your vision. They're executing on that vision. And they're doing it as a group of people who are healthy, who enjoy the work they do, who enjoy the people that they're around. And
Yeah.
so that's in a nutshell what EOS does for organizations.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about who, what kind of organizations should, I mean, adopt EOS, reading the book Traction, which Caleb and I have read. I mean, every time we do quarterly planning, Caleb and I come with our Traction books because we're looking at it because it's designed at one level to be a workbook
It is.
help you get through these things and understand and recalibrate your mind and go, okay, here's where we are, here's what we need to be talking about. It lays out an entire meeting for you, and it's really good. So talk about the types of companies, size of companies. Is this for a solopreneur, or do you have to be a Fortune 500 company or somewhere in the between? Who should be using this, and then how do you work with entrepreneurs? So let's talk about the who first.
Sure. So typically, who I'm working with or EOS implementers are working with are organizations who are between 10 and 250 employees.
Hmm.
Their owners and leaders are willing to be open and honest and vulnerable with themselves and the people that they're around. They're growth oriented, meaning they're more afraid of the status quo than they are of change.
Yes.
Typically, they're privately held. And I'll say that 10 to 250 employees is the sweet spot for EOS, although I have clients who are smaller than that and bigger than that.
Hmm.
And it just needs a little bit of adaptation, but it's for business leaders who are experiencing some pretty common problems, I'll say, in the business world. So sometimes that's people problems, meaning drama or turnover or accountability is one that I hear a lot. They feel like they meet and they agree on a course of action, but it just doesn't get done. Another problem is profitability. Sometimes they're working really, really hard, but just don't have enough to show at the end of the day
Yeah.
for all of that hard work. And sometimes they just recognize that their systems, their operations are not efficient. They're either losing money or they're just wasting time or they're losing to the competitors. And so the running the business like a franchise operation where everything's being done the right and best way every single time is a struggle.
Yeah. And it's really interesting when you dive into Traction and you read the book, it does make a lot of sense. As you mentioned earlier, I remember when so my son, Caleb, he's my 30-year-old son and eldest son, and he's my chief operating officer. I remember when he said, "Daddy, here's the book we're going to read." And he sent it to me, and I'm like, okay, son. And it was really a light bulb moment in lots of areas because of the way, if anybody's read like Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, his diagram at the beginning of all seven habits. And that's really kind of what Gino Wickman has done here is he's given you this diagram that I can close my eyes, I can see the traction aspects and all the different pieces and parts. And it's like, okay. And the accountability chart, which most people call it an organizational chart,
Hmm.
it's a lot more than that, and it's like, oh, is that why I'm the chief bottle washer and the cook and the garbage man? Because oh, I haven't thought about that. It starts for us, it really gave us a lot of light bulb moments, and it gave us a framework, I think, from which we could plug our business into it and go, okay, let's. I mean, we've been doing this for years. I mean, I don't know, 4 or 5 years we've been working on this, and so it is a continual work in process, right? But it's really helped bring the clarity, the vision, the strategy, so that when we get hit by shiny objects or something, we always come back to this and go, okay, how does that fit in or does it fit in? Let's talk about that. Is that what you find as you work with clients?
Yeah, what I hear you saying is it's a set of simple, practical tools that bring clarity and focus and discipline. And I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm an entrepreneur and I can recognize it. I see it a spot at a mile away when I have this visionary entrepreneur. They have so many amazing ideas. They know how to bring value to the marketplace. They're passionate about doing so. So often, though, they just get stuck in the weeds and they're not able to design a system around themselves, an execution system that brings their vision to life. They're
Yeah.
not able to give it traction, so hence the name of the book. And that's why I love EOS. It empowers these entrepreneurs who have a vision, who have a passion, who want to do something, make a change and a positive impact on the world. It surrounds them with the right system and tools so that they can operate in their area of unique ability. They can continue to function as a visionary, and they have a team around them that's built and designed to be an effective and efficient force in bringing that vision to life in the world. And they're not involved in all of the steps of execution because the truth is that entrepreneurs simply don't, they're not wired to drive it across the finish line, to
Right.
execute every single piece of it. And so in order to make that all happen, you need simplicity and you
Mm-hmm.
need focus and discipline.
Yeah.
And those things are what create the energy the organization needs. Those things are what creates the accountability when everyone is crystal clear on the same page. Everyone knows where we're trying to go and who is doing what exactly, who is responsible for what. We're measuring it. We know where we're at and where we're going. And as you said, the vision piece, it's crystal clear. Everyone's aligned and on the same page. It's a very powerful set of tools. And the truth is, there's other operating systems out there. I'm not an expert in those. I do know EOS and I do know personally firsthand,
Yeah.
and it's extremely simple and it's extremely effective.
Yeah. So let's talk about because people can obviously take this, read it, implement it themselves. What are some of the pitfalls, bottlenecks, challenges that you've seen companies and organizations who do it on their own? Where do they where are the bottlenecks? What are the problems they have? And then let's talk about how working with somebody like you might be able to free that up and get them some more traction.
When I was starting and growing my company, I did what most entrepreneurs do, which is I basically created a Frankenstein of systems. I grabbed this from over here and that from over there, and that's what entrepreneurs do. They figure it out. They just pull it all together. They figure out a way to get the job done. And that goes so far. That will get you to a certain point. But at some stage, you'll realize that there are a ton of inherent inefficiencies in the way that that works. And so you'll have to adopt a single operating system. So one of the challenges for entrepreneurs is to fully commit to a single way. And when I say a single way, I mean even as simple as what you call things,
Mm-hmm.
a naming system, all the way through to the rhythm and the cadence within the company of how you run meetings. EOS is complete. And so one challenge that entrepreneurs have is the resisting the shiny objects. Oh, this is a great author. And the truth is, like I said, there's lots of great thought leaders who have different ways of doing it. Fine. But pick one and commit to the one way of doing it. And that can be hard for entrepreneurs who see the shiny objects or love this from over there and love that from over here. And that's a challenge. I'll say another challenge too is people. It's really hard to attract the right people when you don't have a clear, compelling vision and a clear plan of action to get there. And so EOS starts with vision. It's funny within EOS when we're implementing it, we say traction first, vision second, which
Mm.
is counterintuitive. Traction means you define really clearly who is doing what's kind of the structure of the organization, who's accountable and responsible for what, and then we pile a vision on top of that. Because what
Mm.
we found is that when people start with vision first, they create this grandiose vision, and everyone just kind of nods their head and says, "Well, that sounds good," but then it's not crystal clear as to who's actually accountable for what part of that vision. And now you run into some struggles because people have committed to something that they're not really confident they can execute on.
Mm-hmm.
So we take that counterintuitive approach. We create the traction first, make it crystal clear who is supposed to be doing what, and then when they go to commit to a giant vision, they're a little more cautious, a little more hesitant, going, "Okay, wait, So I'm doing this and you want to go there. I'm not, can we talk about how we actually plan to, if I'm doing this part of it,
Yeah.
can we talk about what I'm supposed to be committing to? And now we're able to have an open and honest conversation
Yeah.
about what this vision really is to get everybody 100% on the same page. And so all that to say, having a group of people around you is a challenge. And EOS will help define and clarify who those people are and what positions they're in the organization prior to jumping into this amazing, beautiful endeavor.
Right. Well, and the other thing in bringing somebody like you, an implementer, right? So in the EOS world, we typically default to there's the visionary, the business owner, the entrepreneur, the idea guy, and then there's the implementer, the guy who kind of or gal who actually makes things happen. And the two of them should work really well together, but there's a whole team of people as well. And let's talk about you and your role, because one of the things I think you do uniquely, Will, is help facilitate the conversations, so that if the visionary wants to go this way and the implementer is pulling the reins back, there can be some conflict there, but you have a unique ability to work it out and bring them together to keep that alignment. Talk about that, and how do you actually work with those teams?
You know, one of the greatest, I think, discoveries and realizations that Gino Wickman came across was what he called this the visionary integrator relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's these three terms. It's a bit of semantics, but there's the visionary. This is the high levels, loves to stay at 30,000 feet, big ideas, creative problem solver. You've got the integrator. That is the person you're describing who harmonizes the team, who executes on the business plan, who keeps everybody accountable, who beats the daily drum of the organization, keeps everybody working and marching consistently toward that vision. And then you've got the implementer. That's me. I'm the facilitator, teacher, and coach who helps the team understand how does EOS work? How do you all make this work inside the organization?
Mm-hmm.
But there is a very natural, normal, and healthy tension between the visionary and the integrator. This is the right hand man, as it were, or just right hand person who is fulfilling all the promises that the visionary is making. You
Yeah,
know, the visionary
exactly.
says, we're going to do this. And the integrator goes, what about the last 17 projects you said we were going to start? And so that integrator is a very valuable role because they bring reality to it. They're the ones who are supposed to execute it and bring it alive in the world. And they have a unique perspective. And so the visionary and the integrator must stay on the same page. They must work very, very closely together to balance one another out. When you put them together, they're like rocket fuel. Amazing things happen. But when one of them is missing, not a whole lot is going to be successfully executed upon. And so, and then just so for clarification, an EOS implementer is one who comes alongside the organization briefly to just teach the team the leadership tools. How does this all work? How does this play out? And that's what I do specifically: teach, coach, and facilitate.
Yeah, that's awesome. And great explanation there, because Caleb is my integrator.
Yes, sir.
I'm the visionary, and we're aligned, and at the same time we butt heads a lot, because I'm like, "Oh, let's go this way." And he's like, "Yeah, but what about this and that? And how does that fit in here?" And I'm like, right? But
Yep.
what we've learned is that I need him as much as he needs me. And
Yes.
we both, I mean, our business would not be where it is today had we not implemented EOS and read and reread Traction. This is not a book you just read once and put on your shelf, folks. This becomes your workbook, your manual. And I presume, well, when they come and meet with you, and I want to talk about that, because we have the rhythm of our L10 meetings. We have the rhythm of our quarterly planning meetings and things of that nature, which really start building the mindset, the language, the rhythm of our business to go, wow, here's what we're doing. Here's our big rocks for the next 90 days. How does somebody work with you? What's it look like for a company to work with you? Is it a 1 year program, a 10-year program? Does it matter? How does it talk about that for a second?
Sure. So I'll start by saying that there are literally over 200,000 companies using the EOS tools around the world. And there are over 30, I think it's around 33,000 companies now working with an EOS implementer. That just to say that it is a very proven system, it's a proven process that tens of thousands of companies have walked through with an implementer. And in walking through that, we've really dialed it in so that it's very clear. The cadence is clear. It's a very prescriptive way that we work with an organization. Seen the right way, seen the wrong way, and now we know exactly over 20 something years of doing this. And so the cadence works like this. The very first thing that happens for me is something called a 90-minute meeting. And it's on my dime. I just sit down with the leadership team and I whiteboard out for them what's EOS, here's the tools, here's how it plays out in your organization. And in that meeting, it's really just them understanding what they might be committing themselves to make sure that it's right for them, and that they're willing to commit to the process, because it's a lot of work. It's not just, oh, a few minutes here and there. It's a
Yeah.
way of changing the way that you're running your business. So it's an important decision to do that 90. From there, they decide yes or no. And if it's a yes, then the next step is to schedule something called a focus day, which is a
Mhm.
full day session, 7 hours on average. I'll work 6 to 8 hours. I'll work with a leadership team, and we start teaching, coaching, and facilitating them using the tools. 30 days later, we come back together for vision building day one. You know this process, Michael.
Yep.
We're
Yep.
starting to fill out that vision traction organizer, a simple tool, eight simple questions, but wow, is it powerful when the leadership
Yeah.
team is 100% all crystal clear and fully aligned with the answers to those 8 questions. 30 days later, we meet again for vision building day two, wrap up all that foundational building tools and process, because they're going back into the business and executing, and they're practicing and they're
Right.
working those tools, making sure that they understand it, they're clear and they're confident and comfortable with them. And then we just go into a quarterly cadence. So once a quarter, we'll get together, full day. We'll look back at the last 90 days. What went right? What went wrong? What are we learning from it? What are we taking it away? What are we taking away from that? And then we'll solve issues at the root,
Hmm.
getting really to the heart of whatever's getting in their way, holding them back from advancing it. So we'll do that every quarter. And then once a year, we'll do 2-day annual planning, where we
Hmm.
get away, have a very different, unique, overnight, powerful offsite experience, and get high level look at the big picture of where we're going in the long run. And you can find this online if you were to Google it. Just look at the EOS process. It's
Yeah.
it's widely published and well known, and really effective.
Yeah, it really is, and we were just scratching the surface. Will and I could probably be here for the next 8 hours, really diving in and talking about EOS and how to use it in your business as an entrepreneur to really clarify your vision. Because we all have these visions of grandeur, but when you walk through the process that's in the book and in working with Will, you actually granularize that and you write it out. Say, here's my 10-year vision, here's my 3-year plan, here's what we're doing over the next 90 days, and here's how it all ties together. But it's something that gets communicated to everybody, so we're all on the same page, and there's so much clarity. And then you've got your accountability chart, which is another name for the org chart, but it's kind of different. But to understand the pieces and the parts, and it's like, wow, when you can see it laid out. And the cool thing is, as the entrepreneur, you don't have to create any of this stuff, it's already there. You probably need some help implementing. You really do. And that's where Will comes in to come alongside of your team. And I would say the first thing is to take him up on his 90-minute phone call on his dime and say, okay, I heard you. Talk to me, because we're coming into a new year and we're in the midst of a growth project or whatever. But would that will be kind of the next step for somebody, is just to reach out for that first 90-minute free, whatever you call it? What'd you call it?
Yeah, just a 90-minute meeting. So I work in the greater Tulsa area,
Okay.
exclusively. There are over 850 EOS implementers around the world. And so if you're in a different part of the country, the EOS implementer community is a fantastic community, and we are all help first minded. And
Mm,
so if you'd go to EOS Worldwide and do find an implementer, I promise you'll find one in your area,
yeah.
and they'll be happy to hop on a short call with you. And then if it seems right to set up a 90-minute meeting with you and your leadership team, that's the next step. It's not a sales pitch. It is basically, like we said, a whiteboarding. What might you be getting yourself into? So reach out to an EOS implementer in your area. If you're in the greater Tulsa area, I'm happy to have a call and to meet with your team as well, or to just be a sounding board, at least spend some time on the phone hearing where you're at and maybe helping to point you in the right direction. But the EOS community is a fantastic group of individuals who have been there and done that. We don't just think, oh, let's go teach. We've been in the trenches. We know what it's like to be in your role, and we all have a passion for really helping entrepreneurs be successful.
That's awesome. Awesome. That's great. Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, so where would somebody go um, to get that information? And then how can somebody connect with you specifically if they're in that Tulsa area?
Yeah, so eosworldwide.com is the website. To connect with me personally, I'm on LinkedIn. It's a great place to connect with me, or I'm also on the EOS Worldwide website.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to grab that. I'll have that information in the show notes. Will, thank you. Thank you for being here, for being my guest today. It was a great episode to really add some value, to open up some people's minds into this EOS world and the value that's there in so many ways we haven't even touched, in the clarity, the vision, the profitability, the clarity, all of that. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for the passion you bring to what you do, and for helping other business owners and entrepreneurs, because well, you and I both know we need it. We need something like this, and we need somebody like you who can just walk alongside of us. So brother, thank you for being here.
Great to be with you, Michael, today. Thanks for the talk, and I'm excited for your audience and for all the listeners, and hopefully they can check out EOS as well.
Awesome. They certainly will. I'll have it in the show notes. EOSworldwide.com is the website. But thanks for always listening to experts speak. I appreciate that, and I look forward to another episode next week. So tune in there too. Take care. God bless.